recorded.
And this is our only webinar for the month of November. Our next webinar after will be in January. We'll actually be taking the month of December off. Live webinars are participatory events. We appreciate your questions and comments. Feel free to express yourself by typing in the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen if you do have any questions. All of the webinars presented this year are available on demand on the login page of the Lutheran School portal. You need not be a portal member to view them. If you like what was shared, we invite you to view a recorded webinar together with your faculty. Another great resource of Lutheran Schools is the LCMS School Ministry Facebook page. Our Facebook page provides another opportunity for schools to connect informally. We invite you to share your encouraging stories on the LCMS School Ministry Facebook page. If you'll join me, I'd like to now start with a short word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, during this time of Thanksgiving, we certainly do give you great thanks for the many blessings you share. We especially thank you today for Lutheran schools and for Trinity Lutheran Early Childhood Center in Clinton Township, Michigan. Continue to bless them, their students, families, and staff members as they share your great gospel message. May we all be inspired by the message that they share about keeping Jesus as the main focus of our ministry. In your name we pray. Amen. Right now, I'll turn it over to two folks from Trinity. Jeremy Ashley is the school administrator, and Karen Pitters, who also serves as the early childhood director. So, Jeremy, I'll turn it on over to you, and when you're done at the end, I'll take it back over and see if we've got any questions.
Great. Thanks so much. It's great to be with all of you guys tonight. Thanks for being here with us. Our presentation tonight is just like Drew said, this is some of the best practices here at Trinity. And our presentation, we called it Jesus Glass because if some of you guys are tech savvy, you know about Google Glass, that how you see the world through Google's glasses, and it, you do some crazy things with those. But we, like all of you guys, try to see the world through Jesus's eyes and Jesus Glass. So we're so tech savvy here, we decided to go with that Jesus Glass reference. So that's what our presentation is going to be about tonight, is some of the things that we do here at Trinity. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. And so Karen Pitters, the director of the Early Childhood Center here, is going to get us started off.
This next slide actually shows the entrance to the Early Childhood Center, and it shows our logo, Trinity Lutheran, TLC, Trinity Lutheran Church. But our logo is Trinity Lutheran. We really are just Trinity Lutheran. We are the church, we are the school, and we are the Early Childhood Center. We are a unified ministry, which is a great place to serve. I think Trinity has had a long history of putting children and families first. As far back as the 1800s when they started Trinity, they built the school first and used the school building for worship until a sanctuary could be built. So it really has a long history of ministry to families and children, and we're just happy to be serving in that ministry at Trinity. Once upon a time, back in 1974, Trinity began its preschool. It was a traditional preschool, had morning and afternoon sessions. It was one of the first preschools in the area, and it was very popular, very high quality, and known throughout the community. In 1986, in response to some changes in the families in the areas and at the school, a latchkey program was added for after-school care. And then in 1991, under the guidance of Pastor Henneman, the church came up with some goals, 5- and 10-year goals, called God's Family in Action. And the whole congregation met together, was invited to meet together and really make these goals. And these goals really were created with an idea that we would be developing a staff at Trinity and ministries at Trinity that would serve the unique life stage needs of the family. So it would be families with young children, with school-age children, teenage children, young adults, and eventually seniors. So at that time, David Brown, who is still serving here at Trinity as our Minister of Adult Education and Family Life, was brought on board. And one of the first things that David did was, when he came, was he created an early childhood committee that really looked at the needs of young families or children or families with young children and what their needs were. And one of the things that they determined was a need was for child care for our kindergarten, which was still half-day programs. And so we developed a full-day child care ministry in a couple of the meeting rooms in our church. And it was kind of an interesting time. I was hired as the director of that child care, and we didn't have bathrooms in the room or sinks in the room, and it was just an interesting time, and the program grew very rapidly until we had taken over most of the meeting rooms in the church, and it really showed that we had a need for an early childhood facility. And I think as we formed that building committee, we realized that it was going to have to go beyond just the building and the directors, that we would still need a director to provide leadership for that staff and to the program, but that Trinity really wanted to go beyond that goal. And that's when Trinity developed a new position description, and that of Minister for Families with Young Children. And this person who would fill this position would really seek to serve all the families, not only just in the early childhood center or preschool or child care, but also the church and new families that would come to Trinity to try to meet their needs. Pictured there is Judy Williams, who was our first, hi Judy, I know you're listening, was our first minister for families with young children. And so she came on board in 1997 as the new building was being opened. I was serving as the child care director. There was another Karen Allward was the preschool director, and we came into the new building, and we hoped we would be full in 3 years, but we were full in 3 months. It was an interesting time. I guess it's, if you build it, they will come kind of concept. But Judy retired then in the end of 2012, and Karen Burkholz, who was then the preschool director, also retired, and I took on some of the responsibilities of the directorship of the preschool. And then Jeremy was called as our new Minister for Families with Young Children. We're really excited to have Jeremy on board, and we're excited to see the new direction that he's going to bring to this position, but it's still meeting those needs of the families with young children.
So, okay, as you can see, we have quite a dynamic duo here, and I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking dynamic duo, you know, it's like Batman and Robin, and I was thinking I would be Batman, but I probably am more like Robin the more I think about it. But so Karen's probably Batman in this whole situation. But anyways, we have this dual administrative role, which is quite unique here at Trinity, and the way that works is Karen continues to be the Early Childhood Center director, and so she gets to oversee the day-to-day operations of the Early Childhood Center, which, as you directors and teachers know, is quite a task. And so she continues to do that very well. And then my position here with the Minister to Families with Young Children is to kind of oversee that spiritual development of families in the Early Childhood Center and in the church, that any families that have kids 0 to 5. And so my job is to kind of engage those families and get them tied in to the church. And it's an interesting position too, because I'm working with these early childhood families, which many of you know. There's a lot of ministry opportunities there and unchurched families, and so I'm working with these families, trying to figure out ways to get them connected and tied into church, and then help them to be good spiritual leaders in their homes, and then also the church families too that might have no kids in their early childhood center, but young kids still. So there's two very different populations that you're working with. So that's kind of a neat position too. And so those two things together are quite interesting, and we're very different, Karen and I, and we kind of laugh about it because obviously we have the whole, we have the male-female roles that are different, and she's very task-oriented, I'm very people-oriented, and as Karen would say, there might be a little discrepancy in the age range too. So, but what's neat about that is that we together, it's like the whole body of Christ piece where she brings some really cool gifts to the table, and so do I, and together we make quite a good team. And so that collaboration is really essential, and we really have a lot of great support from one another, and we spend a lot of time kind of brainstorming things and bouncing ideas off of each other and just really focusing on what's best for the kids. And it's amazing things are happening, and amazing things will continue to happen, I'm sure, with that continued collaboration. And it's a neat setup. My office is actually right next door to her office in the Early Childhood Center, so the proximity to the kids and to these young families is really great for me. So I've only been here for about maybe almost, I think, 3 months, 2.5 or 3 months now. But just from the get-go, I could just tell Trinity was a special place. And so I think some of the things that make us special, and probably some of the things that make you guys special too, you know, things like our intense child focus, and all these things we'll talk about more in a little bit, but we're very intensely child focused. We want to do what's in the best interest of the kids, and I know you guys do too. We very much value intentional collaboration, and that's among teachers and staff and administrators of the entire ministry here, very much in support of that collaboration. Care for families. We obviously know that these families are getting, or these kids are getting so much from their families at home. That's a lot where they pull their values from, and we want to make sure that those values are good ones and are Christ-centered. And so we really want to care on these families and help them to be the best leaders in their homes they can be. And we also, I think, a very active group of administrators here, that we are active in the school, within the walls of the building and outside of the walls. So that's an important piece we'll talk about. And we value parents. We just know that that's a great role that they play, and we value their opinions and want them, want feedback from them and to know how we can better serve them. And so we really do value that relationship. And Karen will talk later about a unique staffing model that we use here. It's unlike anyone I've seen before, and so it's a pretty neat one, and I know it's different for everyone, but it's a pretty cool way to do it. And one of the neatest things, I think, is this true Bible-based curriculum, and I know we all say we have that, but I think it's a pretty unique one here. So we'll talk more about that in just a little bit.
We are intensely child-focused. We have a mission that is really in line with the church mission. Our mission is to make fully devoted followers of Jesus. That is Trinity's church's mission. And in the Early Childhood Center, we want to make fully devoted followers of Jesus through Christ-centered care and education of children. So we really are hyper-focused on what is in the best interest of the kids. And we always consider, no matter what we do, if that is in the best interest of the child or not. Sometimes it doesn't mean that teachers get their way or get everything that they want. For instance, the way we staff, we always want to make sure that it's the most consistent for the child, especially in those younger rooms, that we want to have the same people every day, doing the same shifts, doing the same things with children, so that, especially in those infant and toddler rooms where the relationship is just the most important thing for that brain development, that they get exactly what they need. And we want to really maintain that very consistent and predictable routine in every single classroom, which may mean we don't, ditch an activity to go outside because it's a nice day, but we stick with our program plan because we know it's what's best for children, and we really try to make very unique plans to work with different staff for their growth and development, as well as families whose child may be having difficulties either in our program or at home, to work with that family to do what is in the best interest of the child. Sometimes it really takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of focus to do that. Parent education is just so important. Sometimes it can be a little bit uncomfortable. It's sometimes hard to hear if a child is having difficulty, or maybe there's a little lag in development or something, and it's very difficult for parents to hear. After all, they maybe only have 1 or 2 children, and they think their children are right on track and doing just fine, but we have, the comparison of all the other children and know that maybe there's a little issue somewhere, and that can be very uncomfortable when we have to talk to parents about that. And we don't want to set ourselves up as always just being the expert or the know-it-all, but to really help parents understand what we're saying and what might be, typical for child development. So we use some screenings to help us, and they're both, the ones we used are both research-based, so we can rely on that. We point to that, especially when we're talking with them. We use the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which is a research-based tool more for developmental assessment, and it really it measures growth in 5 different areas: fine motor, gross motor, communication, problem solving, and personal social. And it does have a separate social emotional component if we feel like we need that. And that tool is so easy to use. It can be done by parents. It can be done by teachers. And the scoring is quite easy to do as well. And what I really like about it, it not only indicates whether or not a child might need to have some outside resources brought in or for the parent to go to some outside resources. It does and it has a companion piece that comes with it that gives some strategies for either parents or teachers to do either at home or in their classroom to kind of help build some of those developmental levels so that it can help the child. The other one that we use is called the DECA, which is the Devereaux Early Childhood Assessment. And I know that that tool, I believe, is available through Kaplan Early Childhood Supply Company. And this tool really measures resilience in young children. Resilience can kind of be an indicator for how well a child will do in school or in life in general. And it measures this resilience in 3 areas: attachment, initiative, and self-regulation or self-control. It has a behavioral concern measurement, too, for 2 to 5-year-olds. So I think that the tool is very useful, especially when a child is having some behavioral problems either at home or in school. It could be, a child who's real withdrawn, or maybe it's the biter, or it's a child with aggressive behaviors, or maybe a child who is, upset and not able to play or is crying. And it also has a companion piece of classroom and home strategies that are very helpful. We discovered this assessment because it was used with the Child Care Expulsion Prevention Program in the state of Michigan, which is a program that was designed to help families and center staff to help children so they wouldn't be bounced from one center to another, just to try to keep that consistency, which is most helpful. So those assessments we can always point to that are research-based, and it's helpful when we talk to parents that we can say, well, the research is showing this or that, and we can really work together for the good of the child. We also developed a curriculum guide. Pictured is the one on the upper right is the one from this year. And we, each spring we have a teacher's retreat where all the teachers of all the classrooms in the Early Childhood Center, so that would be infants and toddlers and twos and the preschool teachers, all get together and collaborate on this. And we decide what our theme for the year should be. This year is Give Thanks. Our attitude is gratitude. And then we spend quite a bit of time together really discussing all of the different things that we are going to do that year, from staff meetings and parent nights and grandparents nights. And most of all, we really want to choose the foundation for our lesson planning, which would be the Bible-based lessons or the Bible accounts or Bible stories that we're going to use each week to use as our basis for planning. So the teachers have an opportunity to talk with the staff in their classroom and get ideas from them, and then we get together and talk it through. We have quite a few resources that we've been able to collect over the years, the old Eternal Word, and then we Faith Alive and Voyages, and most recently the one in Christ curriculum that has an infant-toddler component that is really fabulous. Our teachers really love it. And we have cataloged some of the early childhood mailings, such as Rattles and Prattles, so teachers can use those as a resource for planning. So all of the center gets together and we create this guide that every classroom in the center uses during the school year. It really creates unity for the early childhood teaching staff, for the families, for the children. If children are in different classrooms, they're still learning the same Jesus story that week and have the same focus. So that collaboration is just very important to us. In addition to that yearly collaboration, we have meetings each week with our staff. All of the lead teachers in the center, in the child care room, have time that we pay them to be away from their children so that we can meet together each week. They can talk with each other and help each other if they're having trouble with, a particular lesson, or there's a behavior of a child, or maybe there's a staff person who needs some support, and those teachers and the director meet and the minister meet together, and we can really support one another. In addition to that meeting time, the lead teachers are giving some planning time each week. And we, in general, give about a half an hour for each full day that a teacher is here in the center teaching, or for the full-time teachers, about 2.5 hours each week. And we try to give it to them each Monday afternoon. So the teachers all have their planning time at the same time, and our resources can be found in the same place, so the teachers naturally kind of gather together. And that really creates some time and a space for them to collaborate and talk to each other about, what that particular lesson is that week and how it can be implemented in their classroom. And, in addition to Pinterest and all the other resources that they have, that they can talk to each other. In addition to that, the lead teachers are really empowered to be the leader of their classroom. As a Michigan licensing rule, they are the managers of their classroom, but they talk to the caregivers in their classroom or their assistants and get their ideas, and a lot of times even their help to prepare things, but a lot of it is their ideas and what they might find as fun, and we really establish that schedule for that consistency, and then the teachers use that curriculum guide, to plan their lesson plans. In addition to that collaboration, there's also the collaboration that we have with the entire complex. We have a school here at Trinity K through 8, as well as, a large church, and so the early childhood is definitely included in the ministry staff meetings that are weekly, and so everyone meets together weekly, and again, it's a sharing of those details and what is happening. And when you have a large staff and a large program facilities like Trinity, communications can be difficult, so it's a great thing to be able to meet together each week and really talk some things through. The picture there was something that we decided to do all together. It was a parent night we were having, and we decided to go with a little owl theme and look who Jesus loves, or look who is in the program. And you can see that the teachers had some freedom to use that theme the way that they wanted to with their kids. The infant room is the one on the lower right with the door and kind of the 3D and the owls. You can blow that up and look, and they really are a riot to see. But every teacher had freedom to plan that and to do that with their kids the way they wanted to, but it was still, we were all together on that whole idea, and we collaborated about that and made it happen.
So one of the things that we have kind of identified, too, that's just really important here is the active administration, and that just goes beyond the Early Childhood Center as well, but especially here in the Early Childhood Center, as far as we're concerned, Karen has been active in the early childhood community for 20 years around here, and so she's really made a lot of great connections, and she's served in a variety of capacities, both inside and outside of Trinity's walls. And she's served on the advisory council for Michigan State University Extension. She was a leader in the Directors Exchange, which is like a monthly meeting here of Macomb early childhood directors in the county here, not just the Lutheran schools. An ad hoc committee through the state of Michigan when she was working with child care expulsion prevention, and then after that was on the advisory council once it was running. And she's been on a committee for rewriting licensing rules and lobbied in Washington, D.C. and Lansing and Macomb County alongside elected officials to promote the needs of young children here and all over. And she has taught workshops and early childhood conferences, for LCMS and in the community here, and she's a licensed CPR instructor, so we get that benefit of having her here, and she teaches that for other centers as well. And then also works in conjunction with the local school district and is on the advisory council for their high school early childhood program. So she's just a really good example of how important it is to make those community connections. And every community has these groups that are meeting, even if it's just a couple groups. But I think you really can try to find out what those groups are around you and your community, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there and just show up at one if you know, even if you just need to kind of take a leap there and go show up one how it is that you can be involved. I think that's a good way to start building those bridges from your church or your early childhood center to the community. And it kind of serves, you know, kind of a two-way street there. You know, you get the resources and the benefit of collaboration with other early childhood people in the community, but then also kind of shows them that you know your center or your school is open to serving alongside of them, and it just is a neat kind of a you know example, I guess, of how we can serve as Christians in the community. And then also then, you know, inside the walls here, you know, Karen and I are both very present in the classrooms here, and we, you know, are in the classrooms every day, and we get, you know, we know the teachers well and the students, and really try to be around during that drop-off time and the pickup time when the parents are coming in and out, and, you know, they're kind of in and out in no time, many of the times, and so just those few minutes of touching base with them is helpful in building that relationship, and you know, when they see that the kids know you, who you are, and you know, that kind of furthers that relationship too. So that's an important thing that we really strive to do here. Karen mentioned those weekly meetings with lead teachers. We sit down with the lead teachers on a weekly basis in the entire center, and then on a monthly basis with the traditional preschool staff, just to get us all on the same page, that we can all be headed in the same direction, so there's no confusion, and we just know, you know, we continue forward with our mission here. So it's a great way to be involved and just keep everyone going the same direction here. And the thing, you know, we really value parents, and I know you all do too. We do parent surveys every March rather, and, you know, really see what they have to say and see if there's some changes that need to be made. And we try to open up any kind of educational evenings or events or anything that we think would be beneficial for them. We invite parents to, and they really seem to, you know, enjoy having that opportunity to come into those development opportunities. We have open door policy, like I'm sure many of you do, where the parents can come into the rooms anytime. We welcome that. And one unique thing that we have here that I have not been in a center that had it yet is these observation windows. We have the one-way mirrors of the glass so that you can watch the kids in the room without the kids seeing you, and that's, you know, the parents really think that's pretty cool, and just let them see the kids kind of in genuine form there. And parents, even the short time I've been here, I've heard parents just talk about how they feel included and connected. And one parent said, you know, we never leave mad, we always leave educated. And I kind of see that happening too, where, you know, there's situations where you're maybe trying to diffuse a parent that is concerned about something, and taking the time to sit down with them and not just brush off their concern, but sit down and say, hey, let's meet right away here and work through this, and then they feel leaving educated or valued. And so we really strive to do that. And the big thing that we hear a lot here is Trinity feels like a family, and it really does. We have, you know, kind of the early childhood family is kind of a little family here, and then the bigger ministry here at Trinity feels, you know, very family-oriented, and you can tell just being here that we value families by the things that we offer and the things that we value here. And so I think that speaks quite loudly to parents on what we hold as important here in our center. And we really do try to be a resource for families. We really try to offer the families whatever they need in order to be the best spiritual leaders in their homes and be the best parents they can be. We've been talking a lot lately, actually, about how you know, parents didn't have good parents. How do they know how to be good parents? And I think that, you know, is true all over, of course. And so we, you know, how do we help those parents be the, you know, great parents? And so giving them the resources they need to do that, being open, having open door policy as far as coming in and asking questions or looking for resources. And we have what I would consider a good group of professionals on staff here. We have a great crew of professional teaching staff, administrative staff. You know, we have a very involved pastor, and our adult and family life ministry minister is also a certified counselor, and so we bring him in sometimes. So it's nice to have those resources. And even if you don't have that at your disposal, I think there's probably connections you can make with community members or maybe even church members that might have some of those skills that you could bring in, and just being willing to pull that group of people in when there's somebody that needs help or a family that maybe is struggling with something. So we're always just ready to help and ready to sit down with families to work through something, because we're always looking to what's best for the kids. So we try to make outside resources available when we can. If there's an article or anything we see that maybe we need to pass on to parents. What's available in the community for children with special needs or for families that need assistance. We try to stay on top of that so we can, again, give them the resources they need to be successful. We do have a lot of sit-down conversations. One thing I really am impressed with Karen is that she's not afraid to just pull them in her office and have a conversation with these parents that maybe just need to talk through some things, and we don't wait until it's at some kind of a peak that it's just you can't reverse it, and so she's really good at pulling those parents in or the teachers in and talking to them and just working through things, and so we really value those sit-down conversations as well. And of course, this all varies by situation. Every family is different, and so and we've seen that a lot here, especially being near the Detroit area. That there's some families that are struggling financially. There's some that aren't. There's some that have lost jobs, and there's just a variety of situations like they are in your centers too. So we really try to cater to those special situations when possible. And the one thing that we try to do is walk toward the mess. And so it's so easy, when you see something that maybe you need to talk to somebody about, to say, oh, I'll get that later, or it's kind of ignored, or it's going to be a big conversation, or it's going to be a mess. We really try to walk toward all that and just kind of hit it head on and say, let's just do it, get it done now, take care of it, and then I really think that ends up better in the long run. And I think all of the things that we're talking about today, it's the children that are at stake, and so it's a lot easier for me to have uncomfortable conversations or to do things maybe I would normally not want to do when I know that it's because it's in the best interest of the kids. And so I think that's what this all comes down to, is being able to make those decisions and have those conversations because it's the children that are at stake.
We try to have that unique staffing plan where that is just as consistent as it can be for children. I talked about scheduled staff. But also our ratios certainly meet, but mostly they exceed the state standards. We operate with a 1-to-3 ratio in our infant and toddler room, which is costly, but we recognize that relationship that people form with these young children is what's going to build those brains. And so it's, again, putting the child first and really meeting those needs that we want to do. And having that planning time for the teachers outside the classroom and occasional meeting time for classroom meetings is just so important for, staying on target, staying on task. And again, it's that true Bible-based curriculum. We gather those ideas in advance for our annual retreat. Some of those things, we pre-choose. We know we're going to do Christmas. We know we're going to do Easter. We know we need a Bible story that's going to go with Z, so we always choose Zacchaeus for that week, or Jesus quiets the storm for Q week. And so some of those things we can kind of plug in advance, and some of the ideas that we get from our staff we get in advance. We vote on the yearly theme. We get ideas from our parents and our teachers and our caregivers, and we take a vote on what that is going to be. So ahead of time, before we do our planning, we have those ideas in place. We try to definitely do a mix of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and our year always starts out with, Jesus is my shepherd. We want the children to know that Jesus loves them and cares for them. So we build then from there. It's not that we're opposed to doing themes. We like to do apples or pumpkins, but we don't choose that as a weekly theme. We could plug that into perhaps creation or the, fall into sin. We could do apples, but we want to use that Bible story or that Bible account really at the center, and then build on the Bible lesson or the Bible story for everything else. We can add crafts and art and dramatic play and what's going to be in our block center and what can we do in the gym, all built on that Bible story at the center. We really work very hard at trying to keep all of our resources organized where people can find them and get to them easily and share with one another, because we really want to make sure that it's that Bible base that's right at the center of all the planning. We have a SAC program. It stands for School-Age Child Care. We do before and after school care we also have, half days and those school days off and even snow days when parents really need that care. And not to even say the S word, but we have care throughout the summer, too. We find that a lot of kids, when we look at our community, we're the only one that's Christ-centered in our community. And so we reach a lot of kids that we wouldn't have normally or had any chance to reach. And we find this is a really wonderful opportunity for ministry to those families. And a lot of these families have gone on to join our school or to come to church at Trinity and get further connected with other Trinity ministries just from being with us in the summertime. We've developed a 5-year program or themes. Kids Count with Christ is one of ours, where we choose different children in the Bible to focus on each week with our school-agers. We do a Down by the Seashore theme in the summer. It's just all the different Bible stories that have to do with the water, serving one another in love, God's Bible heroes, the superheroes of the Bible, and sharing the good news around the world. We can focus on different areas of the world to learn about. We always tweak that every summer so that we can update our devotions or choose different crafts or field trips or different activities. But again, really our believers that, it's a ministry opportunity that we have. We've had to get another room in the school license for our summer program because it outgrew. We were using our traditional preschool classrooms in the summer, but had some additional rooms licensed because of the popularity of it.
And in the summer, things change a little bit. We have this awesome curriculum guide that is used during the school year, and it's just, I was just blown away when I came and see this thing, and it is, has everything laid out for, it's everything down to the stories, to the songs, to everything, and so that's a really cool thing. But in the summer, they mix it up a little bit here, and we are able to do some unique shared themes. And so the way that works is the 12 weeks of summer, every week there's a different theme, but it's kind of interesting. There's theme buckets. So every they pull all these themes together, and they vote on which themes are the ones they want to do, and they pick the top 12. And then every teacher picks 2 of those themes and makes a bucket around each one. And the bucket includes everything that you're going to need to do that week of lessons in your classroom. So it does, it's the hallway lesson plans, the science, math, sensory table stuff, outdoor activities. The snack items are in there. Jesus time, art, gym. Every single thing you're going to need. It's like a week lesson to go in a bucket. And the way that works is every classroom is using one of those buckets at a time. Everyone's doing a different theme, and then at the end of the week, they refill anything that needs to be refilled with snacks and everything, and they swap buckets to someone else. And so the way that works is then each teacher's only planning 2 weeks of the summer, and then they get to use 10 weeks of other themes that other teachers have planned. So it's a cool way to mix it up, but also still build that collaboration. They still work together, and they can kind of share those resources. And some of the themes that they've done in the past, like Iron Chef and Survivor, and Animals of the Night, and Bugs and Dinosaurs, and Olympics, and Winter in July, and all those types of things. And so it's a really cool way to mix it up in the summer, make it a little bit exciting for the teachers and for the kids, while still adding that collaborative nature and with a variety. And so this whole thing, I know even kind of talking about some ideas, things that we do, and I'm sure there's great things that you guys are doing at your centers as well. And what it comes down to is, we aren't you and you aren't us. And so there's things that we can do that you can't, and there's things that you can do that we can't. And also that God's given us all different ministry opportunities. And so God obviously has given Trinity the opportunity here to work with a lot of families here. It's just what He's blessed us with, and so that they've really, Trinity's really grabbed that by the horns and made the most of it, I think. And so we're just excited to see where that's going to go. But I think in general, it can sometimes be difficult to look past the whole, it's always been done that way. So we're going to continue to do it because, things change and ministries change and opportunities change. And so I think it's important to always be looking at what opportunities God has put before us so that we can make the most of it. So, so again, what works for us might not work for you. And I think don't be afraid to go after a prayerfully considered idea that if there's something that you've been really thinking a lot about and praying about and you really feel like it's something you should tackle. I would really encourage you to do that because, again, I think new ideas and new opportunities arise that we can really do some great ministry with.
I want to talk about maybe some possible next steps. I think realize that you're not in this alone. I think that being in a part of a directors group that was part of the community, I just, and talking with other directors from Lutheran schools, I found that sometimes the directors from for-profit centers or other groups were a little bit more open about sharing, and I think that we have some Lutherans have a little bit to learn about that. But we're not competing with one another. We really are in this together, and we can certainly build on each other's ideas and be a support for one another. So don't do it alone. Get talking with maybe the other churches in your community or with the other directors in your community. Find out what's out there. I know in the state of Michigan through Great Start they have a resource and referral service where you can look up maybe all the license centers in the community. You could send them a postcard, invite them maybe to either go to a virtual meeting or an actual meeting and meet together and just share some ideas, maybe have a topic. Don't be afraid to reach out to the other people that are out there in the community. They're working very hard on behalf of children too, and might have some great resources that you might be able to share or learn about from each other. And I think there certainly are other child groups. NLSA has, meetings around, and the intermediate school districts a lot of time offer trainings, and it's a great thing to just show up to some of those things and get on some email lists. Certainly Child Care Information Exchange has an email that comes every day to my inbox, and it's a great resource, as well as I'm on some lists from local school districts and from our intermediate school district. And I've learned about some great trainings. I talked about our assessments, the ASQs and the DECA. We were able to receive all of those materials for free because I went to a training for it. And I think some of the money came from the federal government through some grants and things that, but we were able to get those materials and resources, for free. So don't be afraid to try to see what's out there in your community.
And one thing I think that's important that we all can do is that those just take-homes for parents, because again, kind of going back to the idea that parents sometimes don't know how to be parents in a lot of ways, and especially I think are feel kind of daunted by the task of being the spiritual leaders in their homes. And so we do something here that they started before my time, that Book Friends, where kind of some familiar kids' books go home with in a baggie with a stuffed animal in a slip of paper that kind of helps the parents, talks the parents through how to make Christian connections when reading a story with the children. And so it's a cool thing to, it's a very much a easy way for the parents to sit down and have a faith-filled conversation with their children surrounding something that they're interested in, and they don't really have to, be a teacher to do it. I mean, it's an easy thing for them to do. So that's a great way to make the connections. Devotions, we send home devotions, particularly at certain times of the year, Advent devotions and Lenten devotions for families to do together too. And any opportunity you have in order, to be able to do that and to somehow give families any materials or resources they need in order to easily sit down and have a faith conversation with their children, I think is a great opportunity. And then any kind of parent education materials that you can send home. If you run across articles, and sometimes I'm going to, reading across something, I come across an article and I just save it so I know I can send it out at some point, or just send it on everyone and say, it may not be for everyone, but you may enjoy looking through this, and it's just a great way to keep those parents connected, and they feel like they, that you're thinking about them during the day too, and they know that you have their best interest in mind. So we get to the whole, we don't have the money, we hear all the time, and I know especially when it comes to giving paid planning time and that kind of thing, that's a kind of a sensitive topic of, we don't have the money to do this, or that would be nice if we had the money, and I totally get that. The one thing I really like that Karen says is, always just sneak it into the budget bit by bit, baby step it in, and you don't have to go, whole hog, the first year you're thinking of this idea. just put a little bit in at a time and see if you can, get it in over the course of 3 years or 5 years. But, have a goal and, start small and start putting that in there, and you'd be surprised, how you can at least get little bits in there here and there. And it would be beneficial along the way, no matter how much, planning time you could give teachers or whatever that might be. So I would encourage you to do that. And then also, I'm a firm believer in some things are more expensive in the long run if you don't do them now. And so as hard as it is of a pill to swallow to go and spend money on something sometimes, it's going to cost you more in the long run if you don't do it. If you don't take care of the teachers and give them some of that time, you're going to have burned out teachers. You're going to have people that are upset. If you don't buy the piece of equipment you need now and someone gets hurt on, it's going to cost you more in the long run than it does now. So I'm a firm believer in that. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and do it and just trust that it's going to work out. And the thing is, too, don't be afraid to ask church members and school families. And when I first was a director, I was always really leery about asking parents for stuff because I felt like they probably have this idea of, I already paid to come here, why should I be asked to give more? And I found that's not true. I really think that parents like to be involved and like to be able to help when they can, and if they can't give something, then they won't. But I think school families and church members especially, you have a lot of maybe especially some of the older families that really want to be involved and want to help out in this early childhood center that they can't really maybe be involved in otherwise. They want, to be able to help. And so asking is okay because the worst thing they're going to say is, no, or no one will respond. But sometimes there's just someone there just maybe waiting to be asked to help. And so one of the funny things that we've done recently is we started Zoophonics here center-wide, and every letter of the alphabet has an animal that goes with it. So we were collecting 7 sets of animals for the entire alphabet for these 7 different classrooms. And so that's a lot of Beanie Babies. And so we had some, but not that many. And so we just put it out there for parents, and we put it in the church bulletin and then put it out there for parents. And I am just shocked at how many people are bringing Beanie Babies, and they're saying things like, "Man, thank you for asking because I didn't want to throw these things away, but I didn't want them anymore." And so we just never know what we are waiting to what people are waiting to be asked. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this out there now too. We had a great response, but we were still in need of weasels and yaks. And so if you have any weasel or yak Beanie Babies, we would send them on our way. We would love to have those. So we're not afraid to ask. So it's really, I think just be encouraged by that. I think just ask away. I think that's it's okay to do that.
I think it's really helpful to know your regulations in your state too. Know those licensing rules forward or backwards. They're great to read if you can't sleep, but it's always good to read them and review them every once in a while. Sometimes you see things in there that you don't know. And of course, in Michigan, we're being faced with new licensing rules come January, so I have a new set to memorize. But I really see our consultant as our partner. We ask for advice. We have built a relationship with licensing over the years, and it's really served us well. They can be a tremendous resource, and they're not your enemy, but you really have to build that relationship with them. It's a smart thing to do.
And I think it's, talking about collaborating with people in the community especially, I think it's okay to call people up, whether it's a Lutheran director or not, and say, hey, you know what, let's have a little resource party and gather all of your resources and say, hey, I'm going to bring this, or you bring this, or come over to my center and check out what we have, and I'll come over and check out what you have, and start sharing resources, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you may have somebody say, I don't think so, and then but you may have somebody saying, man, that's great. I would hope somebody asked me to share what I have, and I would love to get more stuff too. So do that. Don't be afraid to reach out to those directors or those centers and gather some more resources, and then get them all organized into themes or in a way that's easy for your teachers to go and grab. The way they have it organized here, we have it in themes, and so it's really easy to just go and pick a binder off the shelf, and it's everything we get new stuff. It's organized into the same way, so everything you pick up is has everything we have in it in one little convenient location. So I would encourage you to do that.
I think we can use social media too. I don't tweet, but I know a lot of people do. Maybe Twitter is a good way. We have a Facebook page. It's Trinity Lutheran. It's the school church and early childhood center Facebook page. I was able to put it together, and I'm not all that tech savvy. So, but share some exciting things. and survived, hopefully. But I think that it's a great way where you can share ideas and share Christ with people and get people excited about what you're doing at your church, at your center.
And I think the next point there, the mission statement is, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys would have a mission statement, but I think it's really important to be reviewing that constantly, that you need to make sure that's still what you're being called to do, or has that changed at all. And I think importantly as well is if you're with a church or another, maybe an elementary school, to have that unified mission. And I think we know that we're in the business of making disciples, and so does that reflect that in your mission statement? And really try to get that to be a unified thing. And I know that's a battle for some places, but I think having those, like we said before, tough conversations, and maybe it's to sit down with a pastor or someone else just to say, hey, I really want to have a unified mission, and I want us to share the vision for where we're going. And I think we're both trying to do the same thing here. And so I think that review of the mission statement and making sure that really says what you're all about is really important. And I think sometimes when you start to hash that out, you start to maybe come up with some new thoughts and ideas about where you're headed.
I think, too, considering that summer program, even if you only have a traditional preschool, maybe you want to do a couple one-day blasts, a pirate day or a tea party or, beach day, or even start with a couple of weeks of, a theme, or consider, extending that child care program for the summer. It's a great way, really, to get some additional people in your center and reach them for Christ.
Okay, and this last point on here is it's one of my favorites. I call it have a no holds barred, everything is on the table, what has God called us to do session. And it's just really, I think, a great thing, and it is super uncomfortable for people of the Lutheran persuasion. But really, I think we get very, very wrapped up in this is how we've always done it. We've always had this school, or we've always had this early childhood center. We've always done the classes this way. And I think it's okay to put everything on the table and say, listen, we have this event in the fall, we have this event, we do this, this is how we do it now, and to put everything on the table and say, okay, let's look at our, back to school event. Is this really, is this somehow reaching people for Christ? And if it's not, can we tweak it so that it does? How can we, or if it doesn't at all, or if an event is just totally maybe self-centered, which some of these kind of are, but if it's kind of a self-serving event, and it is, maybe we need to replace it with something that is reaching the community. And so I had that at my last school, and it was kind of an uncomfortable time of, well, you know what, hey, we're going to stop doing these couple events because it really doesn't do anything, for anyone else except for us. And so I think that's a good way to really start to look at your, your mission and your ministry there, is to just put it all on the table and say everything's fair game, and have a sit down with a group of people who know what's going on in ministry and say, what's God calling us to do? And so I would really encourage one of those sessions every so often to just get you refocused and make sure you haven't become stagnant in ministry where you are.
When you think about a minister for families with young children, maybe you aren't from a center the size of Trinity. Certainly Trinity didn't start out the size that we are today, but who can help you make that connection between your school, your church, to the parents, to the families? Who can you identify that maybe can do parts of that, what that minister does? Can your pastor come down and maybe once a week even be in the hallway as parents are picking up and just, create some conversation with them and a connection with them? Is there a teacher that could make some of those connections? Or is there a volunteer in your church or a church member that could help make some of these devotions or put together some things to send out to families? I think that there's a lot of people that maybe could share the work instead of having one person that heads up all of those things, but maybe split up some of the things that can be done and figure out a way to enlist other people to do those things.
And then finally, I think just starting small is some good advice, and you guys probably know that too, that it's kind of daunting to look at some of these, oh, we'll never have this, or we're just not big enough to do this right now. But start small, and just with building those relationships with the parents, having someone be that connecting point so they're around during drop-off and pickup time like we talked about before, just to get to know the kids so that the kids recognize you and have that connection, because we all know that, those kids are kind of the bridge between us and the parents a lot of times. And so when those kids know who we are and trust us, then the parents start to trust us as well. And have those take-homes and for families to do together, be creative with that, of giving them an opportunity to do family-type things together and put Christ at the center, and just give them no reason not to be able to do that. So give those the resources they need. And just with everything you do, be intentional and know that it's for the kids, and know that as you're doing things or you're planning for an event or sending something out, just stop and think, is this really, is somehow going to build up disciples? What is the purpose of what I'm doing? Is this time well spent? And just be intentional about everything that you're doing. So,
and I think one thing we didn't say is that since we've had a minister for families with young children on staff, about a third of our new member classes have people in it with their first touch point as being in the early childhood center, either in the preschool or the child care program. And so it really can make a difference for a congregation to have those touch points with the family.
Yeah, I think it's important, too, if you have this person, and like we said before, it could be just a church member or a volunteer, someone that can come and have those touch points with parents and kids, and then also be there on Sundays should they, start to come to church, so the kids, when they come in, recognize that person. And I think that's what's been helpful here, too, is there's familiar faces on Sunday as the same as they would be, during the week. And so it's been that's been a real blessing here, too. So really just, encouraging all of you. We love to share resources and are happy to do that and answer any questions that we can. And if you have any questions, you should direct all those to Karen Pitters.
Jeremy.
You can email either one of us. We'll be happy to respond, and just look forward to seeing what God is doing in all of your centers and hearing from some of you as well. So thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Hi, everyone. This is Drew again. Thank you so much, Jeremy and Karen, for sharing what I consider an excellent webinar. I took so many notes, and I think both of your email inboxes will probably be filled up this evening and tomorrow with lots of questions. Does anyone else have a question for Karen or Jeremy? You can go ahead and put that in the chat box, or I think you might even be able to just verbally ask that question right now.
Yeah, I wasn't able to ask or answer all the questions through typing here, so if there's something I missed, please ask.
One of the questions I had, you had shared your infant-toddler ratio was 1 to 3. Could you share what your other ratios are that you've got for your other grade levels?
Sure. Our 2-year-old room we keep at 1 to 4, and we keep them there until they're 3 and toilet trained.
Okay.
And our 3-year-old room we keep about 1 to 7. We take 20 students with a teacher and 2 assistants. And our 4-year-old program, 1 to 8, and we take 24 students with a teacher and 2 assistants.
Okay, great. Great. Any other questions out there? I think we've still got a few participants registered and signed in. Like I said, if you do have other questions later on, you can certainly email Jeremy and Karen. This webinar will be archived very shortly, probably in a couple days, on the Lutheran School portal. So if you do want to access it later for more reference or share it with other people in your staff or your congregation, you're certainly welcome to do that. Thanks again for everyone's participation today. Again, Karen and Jeremy, God's blessings to you as you continue to do some great ministry there at Trinity in Clinton Township. Thanks again. And Tom from Concordia Mequon, thanks for helping us with our webinar today. Looks like we've got a few people chatting. Jenna had asked what was the ratio for 3s. Did you share that again? A couple of people maybe didn't pick that up.
Sure. The state ratio guideline would be 1 to 10, but we take 20 students and have a teacher and 2 assistants, so it's 1 to 6.33. It's about 1 to 7.
Great, great. I think she got that. Perfect. Thanks again, everyone. God's blessings to you as we have this holiday season coming up in front of us. And again, we don't have any webinars scheduled for December. The next one comes in, I believe it's January 14th from Prince of Peace Christian School in Carrollton, Texas. God's blessings to everyone. Have a good evening.